Now, as we move forward to the third round, let me explain the rules and the procedure. There will be three participants from each house. Each participant will be given 2 minutes to deliver their views. A single buzzer will be struck after 1.5 minutes and two buzzers will be rung to indicate the end of the time limit. In this round includes rebuttal session. Every house can ask only two questions to the opponent team, and the opponent team gets only 2 minutes to answer the question. Anyone from the team can ask the question and anyone can answer. Cross questionings are not allowed. Judgments will be based on content, confidence, and presentation. Pay close attention to rule and time limit as they would result in deduction of result points. This round not only tests your knowledge but also your ability to think quickly and respond effectively. The notion for the third round is should developed countries be held responsible for global warming? Now, I would like to call the participants of Agni House, Cadet Anjali, Cadet Priyanshi, Cadet Pooja, who are standing in favor of the motion, and the participants of the Jal House, Cadet Sambhavya Upadhyay, Cadet Shivam Rawat, and Cadet Dhaman Das, who are standing in against of the motion. Best of luck to all. Let's continue to enjoy this exciting journey of ideas and expression.
Joined everyone, I'm again here for another debate on the topic should developed countries be held financially responsible for global warming, and I will be speaking for the motion. Developed countries owe an ecological debt to the planet for decades and unchecked industrialization. This debt isn't just atmospheric, it involves depleted resources, damaged ecosystems, and disrupted climate cycles, much of which can't be reversed. Responsibility must include reparations beyond emission cuts. Second argument of mine would be the colonial legacy link. Climate change is tightly connected to colonial history. Colonial powers extracted resources from the global south to fuel industrialization. The environmental cost of that expansion was outsourced and the consequences are still being felt in vulnerable countries today. My third argument would be the moral precedent and legal liability. If a corporation can be held accountable for environmental harm, why not states? Some legal scholars argue that climate harm caused by developed nations could fall under international liability law, and if we set a precedent now, it would open the path for global environmental justice. Now, the developed countries like the US, UK, Germany, and Japan were the first to industrialize. This has led to massive carbon dioxide emissions starting from the 18th century. A large share of the cumulative emissions that are still warming the planet today. The US alone is responsible for around 25% of historical carbon dioxide emissions. Developed nations grew rich using fossil fuel based development, setting a precedent for other nations. This model encouraged mass industrialization, car-based cities, and overconsumption. It is now hard for developing nations to grow without following the same path, worsening global emissions. And the last thing is the delayed action and climate denial. For decades, some developed countries denied or delayed climate action to protect their industries. Oil companies in the US and elsewhere funded misinformation campaigns, and political lobbying slowed climate resignation. Now, if we don't blame the developed nations, whom are we supposed to blame when they are the ones who are making up to the 60% to 80% of the problems? Right.
Once again, good afternoon to respected Commander Sir, Principal Sir, jury members, and my dear friends. Today I am here to speak against the notion that developed countries must be entirely held responsible for global warming. Just now, I heard your opponents state that all the consequences we are facing now of global warming is just because of the developed countries, but it is not. To understand it, we have to study the present versus historic conditions. Developed countries had emitted the most in history, like in the 19th and 20th century, and at that time, we don't know about the signs of global warming, and they were not aware of the consequences that they would face. So it is morally incorrect to blame anyone who don't know the consequences. And also, developed countries contribute more in the past, but global warming is a situation of now. If we compare between the developing countries and the developed countries, developing countries also compete the developed countries in global emissions. And in many times, they are ahead of the developed countries in MET. Per capita emissions matter. Developing countries are more emitting than the developed countries. Global warming is a shared responsibility, and it is not only because of the developed countries. So we all must share that the developed share that global warming is caused by all the countries and not only a few. Blame cannot solve a situation. Climate change needs global cooperation, not blame. If we blame someone, then it may lead someone to be rich, and he may not cooperate with us, and our bonding may be weaker. So this was all I have to say. Thank you and have a good day.
Good morning to everyone again. I am here to speak in favor of should developed countries be held financially responsible for global warming. Developed countries must be held financially responsible for global warming because they bear the greatest historical responsibility for the emissions that have brought us to the brink of climate catastrophe. Meanwhile, the poorest and least developed countries, those who contributed the least to the problem, are suffering the worst impacts like rising sea levels, extreme weather, food security, and displacement. Climate justice demands accountability. Financial responsibility is not just a moral obligation, it is a practical necessity to ensure global cooperation, fund adaptation and mitigation efforts, and support a fair transition for vulnerable nations. One of the strongest reasons developed countries should be financially responsible is the principle of common but differentiated responsibility recognized in the international agreements like the Paris Agreement. By providing financial support, though climate aid, green technology transfer, and adaptation funding, developed countries can help level the playing field and enable sustainable growth in the global south. This isn't just about blame, it's about leadership, fairness, and ensuring that every country has the tools to fight climate change effectively. In conclusion, holding developed countries financially responsible for global warming is not about placing blame. It's about justice, equity, and survival. These nations have contributed the most to the climate crisis, yet it is the world's poorest who suffer the gravest consequences. Financial responsibility ensures that those with the greatest means help those with the greatest needs, fostering global cooperation and enabling a just transition to a sustainable future. Climate change is a global problem, but responsibility is not equal. If we are serious about solving it, then those who cause the most harm must also do the most to fix it. Thank you.
First of all, I would like to say I disagree to simply with everything. Today I will speak against the motion of the topic that developed countries should be held responsible for global warming. First, I would like to talk about carbon emission. As for 2023, China, developing country under UN classification, is the largest carbon dioxide emitter of the earth, only at 30% global emission, followed by India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. Second, climate action. Why is it is unfair to blame all developed countries is already helping in fund adaptation of poor countries and investing in green climate fund. So it is wrong to blame developed countries for climate change. Third, historical emission with knowledge. Developed countries done their most global warming in 19th and 20th century when the science of global warming was not developed. So is it morally correct to blame anyone for a solution of which they were not aware? Of course not. Thank you.
Once again, good morning. Today I, Pooja, say debate on talking on the favor of should developed countries be held financially responsible for global warming? So, let us begin with the undeniable truth. Climate change did not begin yesterday. It is the product of our country, of relentless and industrialization, driven largely by a handful of wealthy nations. This country, powered by coal, oil, and unchecked ambition, pumped the majority of greenhouse gases into our atmosphere, long before the rest of the world even had electricity. This is not an option, it is the historical fact. And yet, who bear the burden of this emission today? It is not the G7 country, it is the flood ravaged farmer in Bangladesh, the drought stricken child in sub-Saharan Africa, and, and the Islander in Tuvalu watching their homeless disappear under rising seas. These communities contribute the least but suffer the most. Developed nation has the financial resources, the technological expertise, and yet the moral obligation of to assign the most vulnerable is adapting to a crisis. They did not call this. This is not about guilt, it's about global responsibility. Climate financial is a lifeline, not a handout. It's about founding it's about funding renewable energy, disaster responsible and suitable development for the world's poorest. It's about enabling a just transition for all. To conclude, if we truly believe in fairness, in solidarity, and in climate justice, then development nation must be held financially responsible for global warming. Thank you.
Honorable judges, respected opponents, and distinguished audience. Today, I rise not to blame, but with facts. This motion to debate isn't about the past, but it is about the reality of the present that we face currently. The world is not living by pollution, by the ghost of industrial revolutions of the past, but it is being shown by the unchecked emissions of deforestation, waste under management, and issues of today's developing countries. First of all, I would like to shed some facts in front of you. Total cost of 60%, let me repeat that number, 60% of the overall emissions in the world today is not because of the developed countries. It is because of the ill management, it is because of the pollution being polluted in the developing countries. And no, it is not the developed countries' factories that are producing this. It is the vehicular pollution, it is the mismanagement of the waste that is causing these problems. Cities like Lahore, Dhaka, Delhi has been recorded with 25 times more levels of PM 2.5 in their atmosphere than the state limit as added by the UN and the WHO. 50% of the global tropical trees has been felled. 50% on the name of progress in countries like Brazil, Indonesia and Congo, causing an increase of nearly 15% in CO2 emissions. What all this does add up? Ladies and gentlemen, this shows the hypocrisy that these countries are currently facing, that these countries are currently showing. They currently have no legitimate rules and regulations governing the amount of pollution that they produce in their country. And they come on and debate with the developed countries that it is the fault of theirs that this pollution is being produced. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to understand the developed countries are trying their best to reduce the amount of pollution. America, for example, has invested $370 billion in total to produce various renewable sources of energy to reduce the amount of carbon emissions. The fire devastating our climate isn't burning in history books, it is burning today. In the skies of Delhi, in the forests of Indonesia, and the oceans of Manila. If we keep blaming the past and ignore the present, there won't be a future left to debate about. Thank you very much. My first question to the opposition is that As per the latest records, countries like India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, which are currently under the category of developing countries, have seen various cases in which they have an amendment to reduce the amount of pollution being produced in this country. But and they also have the resources provided by the developed countries to do so. But no such action has been taking place. So is this the fault of the developed countries of the pollution, or is it a lack of governance in their own country?
First of all, before answering the question, you should have thought about why are the developing countries doing so, even if they are doing it. First of all, the developed countries, they have set an example that by doing these things, like in 5-year plans and many other things, you can become developed. And when you come in the category of developed, there will be many new standards for you. So the developing countries are doing it just to become developed. So it is, of course, setting an example. And it is illogical to say that during the developed countries, during the 18th or 19th centuries, didn't have the knowledge, scientific knowledge. If they didn't have it, why did they develop gramophone? Why did they develop the printing press? I think you're satisfied.
Agni House, do you have any questions? Do you have any question? Ask questions. Yes, follow this. Ask. You can, but go cross questioning, right? You can ask the next question. Okay, Agni House, ask your questions.
So my question is, if developed countries can fund $1 billion defense budget and space programs, why not climate justice for those hit hardest?
Could you please repeat the question?
If developed countries can fund $1 billion defense budget and space programs, why not climate justice for those hit hardest?
Thank you for the question. I find this question to be, first of all, illogical because I went on to state in my own speech right now that developed countries like US, Saudi Arabia, and the EU in total are doing their best to produce various forms and various reforms. They're bringing various agreements, like the Paris Agreement, to reduce the amount of pollution. They are sending their technology, which they are using in their countries to reduce the pollution, to various developing countries. A very personal example of mine, the factory in which my father works has technology from Germany to reduce the amount of pollution being produced by a factory. So it is completely baseless to say that the developed countries are not working to help the developing countries in order to reduce their amount of carbon footprint and to reduce the carbon footprint of the world in total. Thank you.
Next question.
Just now, Verdi opponent spoke about Bangladesh. Bangladesh is a developing country. And also, in today's time, India and China are among the most emitters. And do you think that, like ozone layer in China is depleting? Is it because of the emission that China made, or the developed countries made, like Russia, America, etc.? It is because of the emissions that China made.
First of all, the ozone layer is not only surrounding China, it is surrounding the entire Earth. And even most of the things, as I mentioned in my debate, the 60 to 80% of the pollution is done by the developed countries, following which are the developing countries are doing so. So majorly, we are supposed to blame the leaders rather than the followers. If the leader is preaching bad, the followers will be bad. And if they are preaching good, they will be good. So I would like to ask your opinion on just like one of your teammates said that he favored that we shouldn't blame the developed country just because we have the Paris Agreement. So just like India is a developing country, we have the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. So why are you blaming India for it?
Swachh Bharat Abhiyan was for the amount of pollution being polluted on the ground and on. What are you doing for air pollution? What are you doing for water pollution? What are you doing for noise pollution? I don't see any kind of amendments being brought in these countries for these kind of. Okay, I do support the fact that these countries are taking a step. But what is the point of coming up on international standards, like on coming in the Human Justice Committee and completely blaming the developed countries? In the recent speech by Bangladesh, they blatantly blame US, Europe, and other countries for the amount of pollution in their country.
It is not these countries that is causing a coalition. It is your country. It is your democracy. It is your constitution. You can bring the amendments to control the coalition. Why are you coming up and telling others that it is your fault? Pointing fingers has never brought anyone to a solution. It is always taking amendments that has brought a solution.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kenneth. The results have been calculated. It's the time to honor the achievements of our participants. Let's begin the prize distribution. I invite Commandant Sir and Principal Sir to kindly come forward and present the certificates and medals. This question is backed by Jal House. Backed by Agni House. I request Agni to come forward. Second, Priyanshi. And Kevin Pooja. It's my honor and privilege to deliver the vote of thanks on behalf of Pratham Pag Schools for today's exciting and intellectually stimulating debate competition. First and foremost, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude towards Commandant Sir and Principal Sir and respected judges for gracing the event with their presence and sharing the valuable insights. Thank you so much and have a nice day.
Kindly subscribe DDA YouTube channel and don't forget to press bell icon.